Hi, in this video I want to do a practice of question 6 on the ODP paper. It's a two-part question and it starts off by telling us that a drug is presented as an ampule with concentration 4 milligrams per millilitres. Part A tells us that the anaesthetist dilutes 3 of these ampules into saline to make up 80 millilitres. And the question is, how many milligrams of the drug will be present in this volume? In other words, how many milligrams has the anaesthetist introduced to this dilution? Well, this question is pretty straightforward. We'll have 3 of the ampules, so we'll have 3 lots of 4 milligrams. And I think most of us will agree that the answer is 12 milligrams. And that, people, is our answer to part A. Let me be lazy and check it with the calculator, because you never know, in the exam they may have more complex numbers. 3 times 4, well, I'll never, it's 12. So we're happy with that. So part A was pretty straightforward. Now part B is going to need the answer to part A, so let's just hold that number in our heads, 12 milligrams. And part B tells us that he wants to administer from this 80 milliliter dilution, he wants to administer 6 milligrams of the drug, and we need to work out how many milliliters he'd need to draw up in order to provide this 6 milligrams. Now this is a question that can be answered several ways, but I want to answer it using the ideas of ratio. And for that, what I do is I create a table. We know that 12 milligrams is now dissolved safely into 80 milliliters. We want to give the patient 6 milligrams, and therefore our question simply comes down to fill in the missing value. And I'm calling it a ratio question because you may have seen this back at school days when you were looking at things like mixing paints and things like this. And what we do is we tabulate our data, and then we look either at the rows or columns and we look for an easy pattern. Now if I looked between the 12 and the 80, I cannot multiply that 12 by a number, an easy number, to give 80. But I have noticed there's a very easy number I can divide by to get from 12 to 6. And that number, of course, is 2. So now that I've decided I'm working in the column direction, I take the 80, I start with the 80, and I say, well, I'm now going to find my missing value by dividing by the same number, the divide by 2. So I use my fully known column, the 12 and the 6, to find, in this case, the dividing number. It could easily have been a multiply, but it just happened to be a dividing number, and then I applied it to the column with the missing value. So 80 divided by 2, I think you'll agree we know what the answer is. The answer is going to be 40 milliliters. And again, I'm just going to check that with the calculator, again mimicking a situation when the numbers might be trickier. First of all, clear the memory. To find out the first divisor, I'd say, well, how do I get from 12 to 6? Well, 12 divided by 6 equals 2. That tells me the divisor. Once I've got that divisor, I then use it to say 80 divided by that number 2 equals 40. We didn't need the calculator in both of those parts, but I'm just showing it to you so that you can see how you might use it in a real exam. It is possible you'll have other ways of answering part B, and I have no opinion over which method you use, as long as it gets the right answers in your practice papers and that you feel comfortable enough to do it. This would be a method I would advocate, but the decision and the choice is certainly yours. So that, boys and girls, is the end of question 6. Thanks for watching.